broadcast network, AfterBuzz TV. Over 20 million weekly downloads in over 150 countries, and your number one source for after-show entertainment. AfterBuzz TV, the destination for TV superfans. Producing aftershows for over 300 of your favorite TV shows. Interviewing celebrities and showrunners. And bringing you behind-the-scenes exclusives. All thanks to E! Entertainment's Maria Menounos, producer Kevin Undergaro, and internet leader Akamai. Now, let the buzz begin!
Hey guys, welcome to a brand new Spotlight On here at AfterBuzz. I'm your host, Yael Tygiel. If you haven't already, go to youtube.com/AfterBuzz. Hit subscribe. We're also on iTunes and SoundCloud. Hit subscribe there as well. I'm really excited about who I'm talking to today because I'm a big fan of the Hebrew Hammer. I'm a big fan of Friends and Fargo and a lot of other great stuff. Guys, I have Adam Goldberg here. I don't know if you can see him, but Adam Goldberg is here.
Hold on, I'll come back. I'm trying to just get comfortable here. Having a little... Am I all Bumblebee now?
No, you're great. You're doing great. While you adjust
I need
yourself.
a little bit more length, I feel, on that, so to speak. There we go.
You're tall enough.
No, not there.
Oh.
I feel like I need more give here, or something like I'm being propelled forward. Anyway, where are we? What's happening?
AfterBuzz.
We're at AfterBuzz. Okay. Like it's strange because really I was driving to Encino.
Yeah.
And it appears to be are we allowed to talk about it, or is it like a secret, like the Bat Cave?
It's a Bat Cave.
So you can't talk about what's like where we are. I'm not gonna say exactly where we are because I don't want to get killed.
Yeah.
But we're like in a house.
Yeah. We're in a house.
But you wouldn't know it.
That's right. Just like porn.
I was about actually to say, would you guys consider renting it out for some porn?
No, but we do have a show. I'm going to plug my show. We do a show here called Adult Films Exposed on the Popcorn Talk Network.
Really?
Where we talk to adult film stars.
Huh. Is there any way we can consolidate and do maybe that with my interview?
Yeah, you could come back for those interviews.
Is that who was walking in front of me?
That was not who
okay.
Nope.
She seemed like she might have an adult film body.
That's, I think, a compliment, and I will let her know.
I wouldn't let her know either way. It's just an assessment. It's really neither a compliment nor just observational, just an objectification.
Are you a big watcher of adult films?
I like to think of myself more as a sort of connoisseur. Yeah, I think I should. Yeah, I would probably do well. You know, if you ever got sick or whatever, I could probably sub
on my show.
Yeah.
All right.
So.
Yeah, can we talk about your career first, and then we'll get to other people's?
Yeah, I'm just curious. I'm just trying to figure this all out. So,
yeah, hi.
So we're live, but we're on YouTube.
We're live on YouTube.
But then it becomes permanent on YouTube.
Yep.
So everything I've said already,
yeah,
it's happened,
and
but it will happen again. There's no way to edit it.
Yep. Yeah. Welcome to 2015.
I don't understand. I mean, it's like Periscope, but on YouTube.
Yeah. So it's better.
It's Paratube.
All right.
It's U-scope.
U-scope.
I've been U-scoped.
You have?
Well, I've had a couple colonoscopies in my day.
I feel like I just U-scoped you, which is like a real big thing for me. I'm excited.
You've U-scoped me?
I've U-scoped you.
Uh-huh.
All right.
All right. Well, anyway.
Yeah.
Let's see. I wonder if anyone, because I tweeted this link, I wonder if anybody who is interested in me remotely is interested in... Nope, they're not.
No.
But the people that follow me, like on Twitter, aren't actually interested in me.
They are, and they're probably late night people.
Actually, you might be right about that.
Yeah, it's a little early.
Someone did like a thing, like a graph on when my tweets get the most action, and it does seem to be later.
Yeah.
In the day.
Which makes sense. You have a show that's on late night.
Well, perhaps, but I think it's probably that I'm an insomniac and I attract other insomniacs.
I believe that as well.
Yeah.
But let's talk about your show that's on late night, because I'm really excited about the Jim Gaffigan Show. Wednesdays on TV Land.
That's what I was going to ask you. Isn't the whole premise of this network?
We do
I sort of stammered there because I wasn't sure. Is it a network?
It's a network.
Okay.
You're right. Yeah.
Isn't the premise of it that it's on after the show?
Yeah, we do after shows.
Okay, but that's not the entire...
No, we also do Spotlight Ons.
Right. that you do.
Because we're going to talk about not just this show, but the other things you've done.
Yes, I should think so.
Because you've done a lot of amazing things.
A lot of amazing work.
Yeah. You are an amazing person.
I am an amazing person.
You write and direct and star and do music.
I do music too, yeah.
What?
Photography as well.
Yeah, all right.
Yeah.
So what can you not do?
I can't write legibly.
Okay.
Print legibly.
Great.
Draw.
Okay.
Paint.
All right, so you're human.
I can't. I don't love well. I don't. I'm not. Yeah.
That is the saddest thing I've ever heard.
Yeah. I don't. I don't feel. I'm dead inside.
Okay.
So there's I have lots of. I mean, the shortcomings really are really it's a much bigger list.
Okay.
Than the things that I like to call myself a jack of all tirades.
Okay.
Or a jerk of all trades. Actually, that's what I prefer, is a jerk of all trades.
Wow, we're making up all sorts of terms today.
Yeah. Anyway, you wanted to talk about the Jim Gaffigan Show.
I did.
Which is on
TV Land.
It's on TV Land. It's also kind of on Comedy Central, but I guess it's mainly on TV Land.
Okay.
Yeah.
And so I know that it's about Jim Gaffigan, his family.
Right, the Jim Gaffigan Show. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Although I did deface a bus bench right near my house. The first bus bench that you see when you make a right turn onto the street that runs into my street. There's the Jim Gaffigan Show, and in the early days of the promotional campaign, we were all featured sort of prominently. Mm-hmm. But now it's Jim, and honestly, as it should be, I think it would be confusing if it was called the Jim Gaffigan Show and the main art should a group of people. I think it's fitting. So it's actually kind of a graffiti theme, and he's sort of like he's again painted on a brick wall or something. Anyway, so I took a picture. Anyway, I could start rifling through my Instagram, but basically I took a piece of paper and wrote Dave. That's my character's name. Mm-hmm. So it says the Jim Gaffigan Show and Dave, and then took what I believe the kids are calling a self-portrait. I'm sorry, a selfie.
A selfie.
Yes. On the bus bench. And so I like to think of the show as the Jim Gaffigan, parenthetically, and Dave show.
Yeah.
When I know that's actually not really the case at all.
Well, I want to talk about Dave because you had said on an interview that Dave is kind of this mishmash of other comedians because Jim is this kind of clean comic, and so you put
That's what he said. I mean, they told me that his gin is much stronger than I
learn to hold
than I realized.
liquor.
I'm sorry. I think it's kind of an amalgam of different kind of New York, like sort of quote unquote edgy New York comedians that he came up with when he was coming up in New York. I mean, some people have said, "Hey, you're playing Mark Maron," and some people, David Tell was another reference. So I think it's just this kind of a sort of a group of again, just an amalgam. It's not in the end. Once I sort of signed on, I think that it was sort of written. That you have the actor in mind a little bit more than as you're writing or as they're writing. So, yeah.
But the character's, I want to say, kind of a dick.
Yeah, I guess he is kind. I guess he is kind of a dick. Yeah, he's kind of a dick. Yeah.
I mean, I watched.
Well, he's emotionally immature. I mean, I guess everyone's sort of emotionally immature to a certain extent. I mean, Jim is. But Well, you tell me. I don't have any objectivity. I just kind of they put a little piece of red tape on the floor, and then I hit that mark, and then I go into my trailer, and then I just weep in the small bathroom that they give me.
Oh.
Yeah.
And that's how you get into Dave's character?
No, that's just what my day is like at work. But I'm probably not going to help you provide any of the listeners. I'm sorry, the viewers, any insight into my character. What do you think? I don't know.
I mean, I really like him, but he is kind of a dick. I mean, there's a clip that was going around that was him hitting on some girl or explaining to a girl that he wasn't with some other girl, and he makes Jim. Yeah,
he's like one of those guys. He's kind of like eternally
an asshole.
Well, yeah, he's like eternally single. He's he can't kind of stay in a relationship. But I mean, the thing that I've learned a little bit, and it's interesting. My wife actually used to go out with a comedian, and you sort of it's they're kind of it's a tough. I'm stopping, and I'm just making sure I'm not gonna say anything that offends anybody because
I'm so excited.
No,
offend everyone.
No. I started to catalog. I started to think about the generalities I've made in the past and how they've come back to haunt me. But anyway, but basically they're kind of a self-loathing bunch. I think a little bit, and I think to a certain degree entertainers of every stripe are. But I get the sense that the stand-up comedians are really like, you know, a lot of, I think probably what drives them to do what they do is sort of rooted in this kind of self-loathing, and obviously what comes out of self-loathing, and I certainly know this from personal experience, is then you could be is that you sort of rechannel that and project it onto other people, and there's a lot of sniping at each other that kind of goes on, but it's sort of in good fun, but you wonder if it's a little bit steeped in genuine feelings of competition or schadenfreude when the others fail, and that kind of thing. It's like, so it's kind of a dark business or whatever. So I think that this is, so it's funny because I realized I refer to Jim and my character as sort of an old married couple, and then I realized I also referred to my character and Russell Harvard's character in Fargo as an old married couple. So I seem to be on a bender of playing the other half of a man-on-man
old married
couple. But anyway, my point is that they're constantly, sort of sniping at each other,
right.
And kind of arguing about, sort of whose comedy is like more legit, his kind of cleaner, more, sort of more family-friendly variety, or my quote-unquote edgier, sort of stuff. And it's an interesting kind of argument anyway. Like, I think that Jim is sort of culling some interesting, material, experience from his own life and this kind of debate. But yeah, I think this is all a very, very long-winded and sort of
eloquent.
I don't know, sort of eloquent, but sort of like BS-y way of saying, he's kind of a dick.
Yeah.
Right. And he lives with his mom. He was just a mess.
Yeah. Did you do any stand-up to prepare for this role?
Yeah, when I was 19, I did it 3 times, but I didn't know then it was to prepare for something I would be doing 20 years later.
It's clearly, you were like, I'm 19, I'm going to do this.
Although the makeup and the hair guys thought I was a stand-up comedian. I was like, no, I'm an actor, playing a stand-up. They're like, oh no, we know you're an actor, but they
you should do stand-up.
But well, no, they actually thought I don't know. This is a non-story, but they said, oh, all your old buddies are here because Jim enlisted pretty much everybody he's ever met seems like they've been on this show, and even if they're not super famous and prominently featured, they're actually in the club scene. So it's actually many of the sort of extras or whatever are kind of peppered by these people who are who hang out and perform in these clubs. And so I remember there was one particularly big day, and one of the guys, I think it was a hair guy, was like, "Oh, your buddies are here," and I was like, I think I know maybe one of these guys, like, "Oh, you're not a stand-up?" It's like, "But your picture's up at Gotham." Gotham is one of the comedy clubs where we're shooting. I was like, "Yeah, that's because the production designer put a big photo of me in there to make it seem realistic." But no, I did it, and I sort of felt like I had to try everything, and I guess at 19 I had the balls or the that sort of fearlessness, which I just simply don't possess now. I don't even like playing, like I play a lot of music and record a lot, but I hardly ever play live. I'm not a big fan of, I don't do plays anymore. I'm not like I don't feel super at ease in a live context.
Good thing we made the show live.
In a live context.
Drink your gin.
Okay.
Drink your gin.
And so, but back then I was like, oh, what the hell, I'll try. But it was like I think it was like a 3-part shtick. One was on I think it was the first time I'd masturbated. The other was like, I think the other thing was about my colonoscopy, and there was probably a third bit, probably some edible thing, who knows. And I was like, I don't know if the world needs any more like poopy and masturbation jokes, and so
I feel like we
retired.
We could never have too many.
Well, I realize that maybe now, but I remember feeling like, if I'm going to do something, if I'm going to do stand-up, I really need to contribute something, and blah, blah, blah. But honestly, it was just that it was very difficult and scary, and like it's I can't believe those people do that. It just seems unbelievably courageous, or just fucking stupid. I'm not sure which.
A little bit of both, I think. I think you need a little bit of both. But you were talking a little bit about your music. Let's talk about that.
Yeah, the Goldberg sisters.
Yeah.
Formerly Landy, but the Goldberg sisters for the last 2 records. Yeah.
Right. Let's talk about, how did you get into music?
Well, I mean, I'd always, I guess, I mean, by always, I wasn't necessarily one of those kids who had bands a lot or at all. When I was in high school, I played drums, you know, sort of to records and that kind of thing, and began to start writing songs and kind of recording them really in conjunction with writing them. I was as interested in the recording process and just getting different sounds and that kind of thing. In my early 20s, I think it really took a big breakup to get me to write and direct my first film, Scotch and Milk, and to suddenly really become a songwriter, which I was honestly incapable of doing. I really was like a drummer who could sing or would sing and recorded with friends, but I never played really guitar. And in I just sort of picked up and kind of started, I don't know, a bit autodidacting it. So I'm kind of as good or as bad as I ever was, because I'm like the least sort of, you know, formally trained person imaginable. But, you know, as time went on, and you sort of began playing everything till, you know, sort of my last record that I made actually played all the instruments, and we recorded it in my garage. I have a brilliant guy named Andrew Lynch, who's a brilliant musician himself, actually, who has a new record out, but who engineered and recorded me. And prior to that, I worked with Aaron Espinoza of Early Mart, who recorded the record before that, and Aaron actually took years and years worth of recordings I had done in a whole variety of contexts. Some were at home, some were kind of using a band that I became good friends with called the Black Pine. Some recordings I did in Oklahoma with Stephen Drozd of the Flaming Lips, which are some of my favorite recordings, where he and I are sort of, you know, playing everything. I kind of dumped all of these recordings, you know, on Aaron back in 2009, and we made my first record, which then I was going by the moniker Landy, and then I eventually changed it to the Goldberg Sisters. So I had been, you know, and I also scored with Stephen Drozd my film that I made in 2003 called I Love Your Work. Mm-hmm. So that was actually the first time I sort of put my music out in any sort of public fashion, though I had been sort of making demos and stuff like that for years, and playing in kind of little bands here and there, but never really taking it. I wouldn't say it got, I don't know, whatever you want to call it, sort of serious, or that I really even had found my voice as a songwriter, as a musician, producer, or whatever, until really, you know, the first record, you know, 2009. So,
and now you've made music for your new movie, No Way Jose.
Yeah, but I actually did it much less in this context than I did in I Love Your Work. In No Way Jose, I play like a guy in an indie rock band, and the guys in the movie are all guys more or less who I played with in some context or another. Aaron, who I just referred to, Andrew, is in there, and so we play in an indie rock band that has sort of just gone south, and now we're playing children's birthday parties. But they're playing their old stuff because my guy is like too proud to actually write children's songs. Right. So he's just playing his old songs about kind of being an infantilized adult, hoping that they'll sort of come across as sort of indie, like children-friendly indie songs or whatever. So to that extent, I did, and we did some kind of sort of interstitial or kind of atmospheric music. I would, like, for instance, I needed mariachi music, so Aaron and I recorded, and Andrew, and actually my wife as well, who plays violin. We did some like mariachi music that you'll hear like way in the background in this scene that takes place in Mexico. But for the most part, it's actually source tracks. So it's like there's Beach Boys, and there's Harry Nilsson, and Three Dog Night, and Bridget St. John, and Claudine Langer, and all these a lot of 70s source tracks that are that kind of color the feeling of the movie. But yeah.
Yeah. No Way Jose is your coming of middle-aged story.
Yes, that's the tagline. That's what I wrote on the script and as a tagline, and well, gosh darn it, it stuck.
You're like, that's clever. We're going to use that.
We're going to use that, Adam. Well, surely. You take it. It's all yours.
Yeah. So you wrote and directed and starred.
I co-wrote and directed and yes,
and
starred in it.
Where did this story... Is this something you want to tell us about?
Well, I mean, all the stuff I've written, I mean, has been personal to some degree or another, and it's always been thematically personal. I've made 3 films, written, you know, I guess probably, strictly speaking, 4 features, and made 3 of them. And this is, you know, the other 2 films I made, I Love Your Work and Scotch and Milk, are a little bit more I guess you might say, kind of elliptical, maybe arguably a little bit challenging, or whatever. And this was kind of an attempt to do something that felt a little bit lighter, that employed my sort of comedic sensibility a bit more. And so I was, but yeah, it's I think it's clearly very personal. Not to mention, I wrote many of the roles for actual friends of mine, some of whom are complete non-actors, other of whom have acted, and some who are in fact professional actors. But so yeah, I mean, it's basically a story about a guy who is pushing 40, and you think that he's, by all appearances, he's finally going to commit, but he's clearly like sort of trapped in the body of a guy who can't really commit, but he's kind of like by hook or crook managed to sort of get himself into this relationship with, by again, what all appearances seems to be sort of like the perfect woman for him, who balances his neuroses, and she finds out a kind of a sort of a dark secret, and it's less the secret itself and more the fact that he withheld it, and then he gets kicked to the curb, and the rest of the film is sort of him sort of dealing with this on his friend's couch, who himself is in the throes of a midlife crisis. And that's my old friend Eric Siegel, who I went to high school with, and played my dad in the school play, and played in all the bands I've played in, and we've recorded music with, and so I've always wanted to do something with him and his wife, who plays his actual wife in the film, and so yeah, there's a lot of it just the process of writing the script was as much about sort of kind of reflecting on myself at the time and over the years, and what I felt I was sort of going through as I was I guess pushing 40. I've now pushed past 40, and I will be soon pushing daisies.
Ah, that's a thing that people do.
Yeah, hopefully not too soon. Although I don't know, I sort of felt funny today.
It's all the gin you're drinking.
I know, it's just the straight gin.
Yeah,
that's not a good idea.
I want to switch gears a little bit and talk about Fargo.
You want to downshift?
Yeah.
Fargo. Is it toasty in here?
It is hot as balls in here.
It is hot as balls.
Yeah. They're gonna fix that.
I wonder if it's my balls.
It could be. But I want to talk about Fargo.
Okay.
Because I know that the new season, or I heard that the new season is going to be kind of a prequel.
Right.
Is there any chance that you will be returning?
No.
Okay.
No.
I just know the fans would kill me if I didn't ask.
No chance. I mean, I don't think that's a spoiler of any kind. I mean, it takes place in the 70s. The guy would be numbers would be like a little, that'd be cute, a little like sort of sunglassed, kind of like badly like fake bearded,
right?
Numbers.
I just want to see how Numbers and Wrench,
like began like them as little kids,
right?
That'd be so cute, wouldn't that? Kind of like cutting lizards in half and seeing how their innards worked.
Yeah.
No, I mean, on the one hand, I was like, damn, it would be great to do that again. Because it was one of those things where it's like I actually watched the show. Do you know what I mean? Like, after I was killed, I guess it's
yeah.
After I was killed
ready
off,
for season 2.
Yeah. You never know. Someone got mad at me once. It's like, it's been 6 months, man. I'm sorry if you haven't watched it yet.
It's your fault.
Yeah, I know.
It is your fault.
Yeah. So, I continued to watch the show. I was really, I was genuinely, I thought it was a terrific show. So yeah, there was a part of me that was like, man, it would be great to do that again. And there was another part of me that was like, man, it was minus 30 degrees and I never stopped complaining. It was freezing and really difficult. That was really difficult work. I would say, just on a physical level, the most challenging work I've done since like Saving Private Ryan, and also just the skill set I had to learn. A sort of a nominal amount of ASL, sign language, in an extremely short amount of time. And I began shooting 3 days, or let's see, I wrapped my movie, No Way Jose, on a Sunday, and I was in Calgary on a Thursday shooting the first scene in which you see Wrench and Numbers. And it was a lot. So it was challenging as hell. And I remember just feeling like, there was a point at which I considered kind of maybe backing out, because I didn't think, this is before we were shooting and I was shooting my movie, I just didn't see how I could do it justice, and I really wanted to. I really, felt like, really it was the sign language. I just felt like I didn't want to, it was intimidating. But anyway, I'm glad I nutted up, as it were. Is that how you would say it? Nutate up?
I'm not sure.
Yeah.
I don't.
Not sure.
No.
Anyway, I'm glad I got it together and pushed through.
Yeah. Speaking of Saving Private Ryan, you have these two gruesome deaths.
Right. Both by knife.
Right.
I've been killed a lot in things, but those may be the most notable. Yeah.
The like gruesomest.
Right. Yeah. I don't know what to tell you.
Is that a thing you want to keep? I'm gonna just die gruesomely.
I don't know. I didn't know. I knew I was gonna die. I didn't know how in Fargo until a certain point. Actually, even in Saving Private Ryan, I initially got shot, and that in the original draft of the script, there were like a million iterations of that script, and even my character. In fact, the first version of Saving Private Ryan didn't contain my character at all. It wasn't until it didn't contain my character or Vin Diesel's character. We were both written. Those characters were written after we auditioned. And I think everyone who did auditioned for you read from another script from a movie called Midnight Clear. So you didn't really know even what you were auditioning for. Anyway, so in the initial versions of Saving Private Ryan, I just am running along and get shot. But then I'm told that Captain Dale Dye, who was our technical, military advisor, had sort of, I guess, buzzed in Steven's ear something about me having in boot camp, though I was largely a disaster and a physical mess, in spite of like the weeks of boxing training Giovanni and I had done in Los Angeles prior, and we were sure we were going to be there and like be the fittest guys there, and it was like Hanks was running circles around everybody, but I had sort of excelled to some degree in this kind of hand-to-hand combat stuff that we were doing, and so he thought, I believe this is how it went, that he thought that would be an interesting way for me to go, and then certainly, I guess, the metaphorical value of this German killing this Jew with, I believe, his own knife, right? Yeah, would probably be pretty powerful, which I think it was. But then Fargo, similarly, when I signed up, you were signing up for X amount of episodes. So you're out at a certain point. It wasn't really until a few weeks before I was like, really? Knife? Again? All right. So
you gotta get that into your contract.
I guess I was like, killed by knife.
By knife.
Yeah, no nudity, but killed by knife. Yeah.
And gruesome.
Yeah. Blood. Yeah. That was a tough scene to shoot. I mean, the Saving Private Ryan one was a full day of work, but that the Fargo one, though it wasn't, was technically kind of difficult because it was like this weird matter of trying not to look like you're bullshitting and like you're somehow actually having your throat cut, but like sitting up in just the right fashion so that the blood would spill out. And anyway, it just becomes, it's like they're like sex scenes, death scenes, they're like, well, they're so technical so that it's often difficult to be fully immersed you can be immersed into the fight that leads up to the actual sort of money shot, as it were, of the blood spewing from yourself, but it ends up being a pretty technical affair. I was thinking that because I just did this scene in this film recently as like a sex scene. It was I had done pre-coitus and post-coitus quite a few times over my career, but never coitus. And with the whole thing where your dick's like in a coin bag or whatever,
right?
And it's insanely ridiculous and like the least sexy thing imaginable, which is actually why I prefer to shoot just full on, just straight porn where you're doing it, because otherwise,
How many people were in the studio with you when you shot this new? I'm not going to ask what movie or with who, because I'm sure you can't tell us anything.
Yeah, I don't know. It's probably best that we wait. I mean, but well, I don't know. What it's interesting is that the woman with whom I was shooting, her husband was the boom operator.
Oh, how was that?
Pretty sexy.
Oh, good. Good. I'm sure they went home and they were like, yeah.
It's also the whole thing. Like I said, it's just so. It's like so. Okay, so you have to do there, and then get in there, and then there, and then you show your ass, but not that much of your ass, and then make sure we don't see your balls, and like it's literally what's going on. But it was a few people. I mean, it was like a closed set, but I mean, you have to have enough people to shoot the.
Right.
I never know what difference that makes. I mean, it's how closed can it be? It can't just be like a floating camera, like phantom camera,
right?
Without any operator, and
Well, anyway. You as a filmmaker are now gonna figure out how to make that happen.
I've shot a sex scene, and I love your
with
work,
a floating
Frank.
camera?
Yeah, right. You're right. With not a floating camera, I was floating behind the camera. With Franca Potente and Giovanni, they had to do that. And I remember feeling really guilty about having, like making them, do something that's kind of sort of uncomfortable.
Huh.
But I feel guilty about pretty much. I felt guilty about having anyone show up to my film at all. Like in every case, anytime I've directed, I felt guilty, sex scene or not.
Wow.
Oh yeah.
I want to go into this therapy session now.
Yeah. Well,
let's talk about your issues of guilt.
Well, let's talk about it. I'm sure it has something to do with seeing, mommy naked a lot. As a child. Actually, that's in No Way Jose.
I'm not quoting my own film. I feel like that's a line.
I know.
Definitely.
It's a line, but it started out as the truth.
Oh.
It started out as not a line.
What?
And then it became a line. So now it sounds like I'm quoting my movie, but really I'm just quoting my life that I happen to then put into a movie.
Right. Interesting. Things to know about your family.
I don't know. As long as we've blown the cover on this, I think I should just start drinking out of the bottle.
Yeah. All right. So, do you get recognized more for Saving Private Ryan, Friends, The Hebrew Hammer, or Fargo?
Well, it depends. My penis gets most recognized from 2 Days in Paris.
Okay.
So a lot of times, like people will have no idea.
Right.
And then they see my penis and they're like, "Oh, you were in 2 Days in Paris."
Yeah.
So that's. I would say that it would be. I don't know in what order it really, but I would say that Dazed and Confused, Friends, Saving Private Ryan.
Am I the
2 Days in Paris.
Am I the only one who saw The Hebrew Hammer?
No, The Hebrew Hammer is another one. I would say not for Fargo. I would say very few people come up to me and say they've seen. Who knows what people are thinking? But in terms of, interaction. Oh, and Entourage.
Mm-hmm.
I would say those would be the top. Yeah, interestingly, not. I don't have a sense of even how many people actually sort of saw Fargo. Like I don't know what the.
Fargo was a hit.
Was it? I don't know.
People love Fargo.
I know that it won Grammys? Emmys.
Golden Globes?
Did it?
I don't know. One of those awards.
I think it won
TV
Emmys.
awards. It wasn't Grammys. Grammys is music.
No, I know. I think it even won a couple of Tonys.
Yeah, that sounds right.
But no, I don't know that. I don't know. But yeah, that's not necessarily. The people that saw it, I got really great feedback from the people who saw it. But again, it's like, there's like your Twitter world and then there's your real world. Right. So it seems like in the real world, it's like that Friends thing is never ever going to go away. You know, like arguably that would probably be it. But then I was in the, up in on a little vacation this weekend up in the San Ynez Valley, which is like the sideways country, you know. And it was the funniest thing because this guy came up to me and he goes, "Are you the movie star?" And I said, "Oh no." He goes, "I'm sorry. That was the next. that was a lady that later on in the day who turns out was with these guys." But no, earlier it was, "You're him, aren't you?" I said, I'm a him, and you're the actor. I'm like, "Well, I'm an actor." And this is the conversation I've had, a lot. And then he had me sign, not his, because he was buying a cowboy hat for his brother, but his brother's the inside of the brim of his hat. I signed my name, but I just said, "Hi, I'm Adam." So I never said, "Hey, I'm Adam Goldberg" or whatever. And my signature was like insanely legible. Right. So I just think it's funny because he didn't actually pull the, "What have I seen you in?" But later on, this sort of group of women that turns out they were with, I guess maybe married relatives, or some older, some younger. It was confusing. They all wanted to. Then they came up, and then they wanted to take a picture with my little baby son, which wasn't going to happen. And they were. And then they tried to, Then they did the whole, "What do you? How do I know you?" So and I was like, "I don't know. Do you like comedies? Do you like drama? Do you watch TV? Do you watch movies?" I don't know. 25 years
after the pictures, they asked who you were.
No, I think they probably asked before and then did the pictures. But it's like, I would say over the years, that is a fewer and farer between occurrence.
Yeah.
but in the San Ynez Valley, I think it's probably a little more common. It's like, and so I was like, I was trying to, and be nice or whatever. And I was like, I don't know. I was like, I guess I go, Saving Private Ryan was kind of a big movie, and they're like, and then you get and I was like, well, I mean, it could be anything. It could be like Deja Vu. Like a lot of ballet parkers like Deja Vu.
Yeah.
That Denzel Washington movie.
Right.
So it's like, I don't know. Ballet parkers, Deja Vu. I don't know what that's about.
Do people give you goldfish?
Give me. No, they oft referred to it. But it's funny because people think that a part you've played as well as they do.
Yeah.
And so, okay, I do get the goldfish reference.
Right.
But for instance, once, and it seems funny to me now because I do the things about Dazed and Confused probably I remember more clearly than anything. It was one of the kind of most important things to me in my life personally that had ever happened or that I was involved in. It was just it was just a really sort of, it was my first movie really, although I was in Mr. Saturday Night very briefly, a few months before. And, but I remember, so it's weird to me that I would I wouldn't know every line from that movie, but I did come out of a bar once, and maybe it was just in some period where I don't know. This was like a few years after the film had come out, probably in the 90s or whatever, and I'd come out of a bar and some guy's said something. I don't think it was like super dominant male monkey motherfucker, but it was something that had motherfucker in it that I say in the movie. But I go, what? I go, what the fuck, man? And I'm about to actually get into like a Mike Newhouse, say I know my name from the film, fight with the guy or something. And I don't remember how this resolved. I just remember that I don't think it resolved with him explaining to me what he was saying. It was only later on I realized that it was quoting, which I still think is, I mean, it's still, when you just walk out of a place and someone, and they're screaming motherfucker. I mean, but it's like I didn't just do it yesterday, so it's not like,
Right.
And people and with Entourage in particular, like people would really kind of like they had a pretty rabid fan base, and people would call out references that really just rendered me completely blank, oh, okay, all right, okay, because I might have done it, but I didn't necessarily then watch it or watch it twice or whatever,
or 15 times,
or 15 times, or whatever, right? So that's weird, but,
the life of an actor.
Yeah. Well,
I know that your filmmaking is a big part. A big passion of yours.
Yes.
More so, I would say, than acting.
I mean, yes, but it's a hard, making movies is difficult. And then, I also have never sort of thrown myself, not really, a little bit. I've sort of dipped my toes into the water of looking at scripts and that I didn't, write and that kind of thing. Mm-hmm. But because I'm essentially relying upon myself to create work which I want to direct, and I also really deplore, I struggle and with the writing process. It's not something I don't think of myself as a writer. I think of myself as capable of writing in order to get to the process of making the film. Mm-hmm. And so it's for that reason, and because also filmmaking and the independent filmmaking, the likes of which that I've made, has been a grueling and often extremely unpleasant experience. And so for that reason, every time I do one of these, I'm like, that's it. I just can't do it again, and I end up spending a bunch of my money, and I end up, I end up being sort of really being forced to have to act rather than it being a little bit kind of choosier about it. Mm-hmm. It takes up a big chunk of your life. There invariably things have sort of gone wrong, not just in the making of the film, but in the post-production and the dealing and the sort of distribution aspect of it. And I have felt, a bit adrift oftentimes towards the end of the process. It seems like sort of everyone's around for the exciting part, and then for the sort of the kind of the the kind of muck of the sort of business end of things,
right.
It's suddenly you're like, what happened to the party?
They don't want to be part of that.
Right. So, but having said that, I wanted to make films and was making short films and shooting Super 8 film and, you know, and short videos and things like that since I was a kid. I mean, that was really what I wanted to do. I wanted to act as well. But that, to me, filmmaking was this kind of all-encompassing art where I love to shoot, photographs. And so, it's a visual medium, it's an oral medium where you can create sound and sound design and employ music and it's an incredibly expressive, medium psychologically and emotionally. So yes, I mean, it exercises all these muscles. But I have to kind of like, balance that though with the thing which really supports my ability to do that, which is basically to act, you know. Yeah.
Well, to quote your movie, you should make a YouTube channel.
I have nobody cares. It started out as like a channel that was really was the Goldberg sisters YouTube channel, which was just a channel for my music videos that I'd make for my my music. But then I was like, and I'd start throwing up some other stuff. I was like, all right, I might as well just call it Adam Goldberg. But I don't, I don't think it's in the stars. I flirted with, or rather, maybe I would say, social media flirted with me very briefly when in the early days of Vine, and I was making, I was just like shooting these Vines, literally in the 2 weeks after Vine was invented. And then, within a couple of months I was like flown to France and making them, based on, films for the, for the Cannes Film Festival and like, this sort of whole thing, which was just kind of bizarre. And then, eventually, I realized that was going to be a very kind of ephemeral thing, because I would go on to sort of make my feature later that year, and B, because it would eventually become this incredibly sort of mainstream place. But in the early days, it had this sort of bizarrely artistic bent. And some of those guys are still around and are producing really interesting content. But obviously, it became much more of a kind of a short form sort of YouTube place where it's very difficult to have a voice that gets heard.
Yeah.
But especially if that voice is very whiny.
Oh, Vine.
Oh, Vine.
This has been amazing.
Really?
I've learned so much.
No, not amazing.
Amazing. Before we go, if there are filmmakers, aspiring filmmakers, or aspiring actors out there, what is your one piece of advice that you wish someone had said to you?
Learn a skill. like learn how to make furniture. I'm not even kidding.
All right.
I'm not kidding. I wish I could make furniture and like leather goods.
Specifically furniture and leather goods?
I happen to be a big furniture and leather goods fan.
Okay.
So
leather goods like
a great wallet. Like if I could make this great wallet.
Not the leather goods I thought you meant.
Oh no, I'm not talking about like what you do as in the capacity of your other hosting job. Yeah. But no. I mean, that's a bit of a glib answer, but one of the things I did make sure that for myself, at least as an actor, was that I did have other things that I liked to do and other forms with which I could express myself. If I didn't have photography and I didn't have music, now these aren't things that necessarily pay the rent, and they're often things for which I actually pay. It's safe to assume, however crazy I am, I would go like cuckoo's nest crazy, having just been an actor and having that outlet. And the other thing, and I guess probably the biggest piece of advice would be to try and find satisfaction in the doing of it, because expecting that this is going to lead to this and this is going to lead to that. I mean, there's no algorithm for this. I mean, there's no real equation for this. I think that people think that there is. I mean, there have been I feel lucky that I've been sort of just consistently able to sort of support myself over the years. But in the early days, I thought, well, this will necessarily lead to this, and and this is the launching pad for, And at the end of the day, I've really had to learn to to be satisfied, or attempt to be satisfied by the actual doing of the thing itself, rather than what it's going to kind of elicit in terms of however you define success,
Yeah.
So.
Well, thank you so much.
Well, thank you, Yael.
Before you go,
Yeah.
why don't you tell people your Twitter and Instagram, especially because they want to see that photo of the thing you defaced.
Sure. At the Adam Goldberg.
On both.
On both.
Awesome.
And then AdamGoldberg.com has all of the, which is pretty easy, right?
Yeah.
That has that's all the stuff where it's like all kind of all my insanity consolidated into one Squarespace.
Awesome. Well, if you want to follow me during the week or the rest of your life, that's cool.
You can follow her at 18. What's the address here? 37. And then she drives a black Camry and license plate, and you can follow her.
Yeah. But you can also find me online at yael.tv. That's YAEL.tv. I'm also on Twitter, Instagram, YouTube, Facebook, all those places at Yael Tygiel. That's YAELTYGIEL. Thank you so much.
Really
Where are you going?
I actually did sing for real.
Oh, he's trying to escape. Bye, guys.
Bye. I started to really sing.
From executive producers Maria Menounos, Kevin Undergaro, Phil Svitek, and the entire AfterBuzz TV staff, we would like to thank you for listening to the AfterBuzz TV network. To watch or listen to other after shows and post comments or questions, be sure to visit AfterBuzzTV.com. I'm Sir Richard Wentworth, and this has been a presentation of AfterBuzz TV.
Buzz you later.
The views expressed herein are those of the hosts only and do not necessarily reflect the views of AfterBuzz TV or its owners or principals.